Criminals are raking in cash from text scams. According to an exclusive report published this week in the Wall Street Journal, these criminals have stolen upwards of $1 billion in just 3 years. You're probably very familiar with these kinds of scam texts, also known as smishing attacks. The FBI says bad actors use these fake texts to do multiple things like trick people into downloading malware, sharing sensitive information, or sending money to cyber criminals. You can see some of those examples right there on your screen. A lot of the recent fake texts sent out tell the recipient that they owe money for unpaid tolls. Proofpoint, a company that filters these mobile spam messages, says that in just one day last month, Americans reported receiving a total of 330,000 toll scam messages. That's an all-time high, signaling the problem is getting much, much worse. Cybersecurity expert and CEO of Reachout, Rick Jordan, joins me now. Rick, it's great to have you here.
What's shaking, Alex?
A lot. I mean, we were just talking about how, one, fascinating this conversation too is, this story is, and then two, how widespread it is.
Yeah.
I personally have families that have been victimized by these types of scams. Tell me a little bit about where we're at currently in the type of actions that these criminals are taking and the sophistication it's grown to.
Yeah, it's grown in sophistication over the last decade or so, and a lot of the sophistication actually has to do almost with spelling on the human aspect rather than the technology aspect. Because you think in 2025, text messaging has been around forever at this point. But what they're doing is they're starting to get better at grammar. They're starting to get better at those links that are in those smishing attacks so that they look more real. That way, unfortunately, individuals like your aunt, they'll be more apt to tap on those and then enter their credit card information in there. So it's more of a human aspect now than it is a technology side. That's the sophistication part of it these days.
Is there something along the lines of this toll being the strategy that they're using and it being successful? I don't know. Are we afraid that we're going to get behind in paying our tolls and for some reason they've realized that and captured in it? And if not just tolls, like what else are they doing nowadays?
Yeah, they tap into the human behavior because everybody drives on a road, and also I think it was the Wall Street Journal report that said there was 37 cities across the US that have these SIM farms. So what they'll do, right here, we're in the studios in Chicago, right? I've received these, but they'll say, hey, you have an iPass violation. So again, on the human side, they're getting sophisticated in targeting the geolocation on these. So if it's another state, it would be Easy Pass. If it's Florida, it would be Sun Pass. So it makes it a lot more convincing when you take a look at those messages.
There's a part of me that perhaps naively thinks that there is just some random guy in a faraway state or faraway country that's taking in all this money, but perhaps, and my point of it being naively, maybe this is a lot bigger than I'm thinking. And maybe this is whole conglomerates of people and criminal syndicates that are behind this. Is there any truth to that?
Very much so. I mean, one of my favorite shows, it was only 2 seasons, I think, was Narcos on Netflix. But it really kind of gave you a glimpse into Pablo Escobar. It's a great analogy to these criminal gangs that are in different countries. Even when I speak on stage, I'll put a photo of a Sri Lankan family up there and say, these are your hackers. They are family people, but they're running large enterprises. That's their business. So it's nothing personal. It doesn't make it any better. But they're raking in, as you said, $1 billion in 3 years, taking advantage of people.
When I talk to my family about this, when I talk to my mom about this, I give her their usual tips, which are look for misspellings, look for funky email addresses that don't seem right, look for the language that tries to add urgency to it, right? Is that still the same advice we should be giving to people out there? Or is there, now that there is new sophistications, maybe new advice that we need to be giving folks?
Yeah, it's still similar. What I really wish is that, because these are text messages, right? They're smishing. Again, 25 years, right, that we've really been active in text. I wish the carriers would really do something about these. You've got big carriers, T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon. I mean, I work on the B2B level, working for small and mid-sized businesses with my firm. And there's things that protect from emails. Why can't we employ a system like that? I understand there's costs associated with it, but have that be a feature.
Right.
I would pay gladly, and I'm sure your aunt would, an extra $5 a month just to make sure that these things don't even reach my phone.
Yeah, and perhaps there should be a level of accountability and responsibility for being a carrier for millions of Americans out there, and you should be protecting them in some capacity, maybe.
Right on.
Let's talk a little bit, and this is also something curious for me. I feel like I've been getting a lot more texts lately that aren't necessarily so scary looking. They're just a random word. Hey. Or how's it going? Sometimes it's a job offer, and for that, usually I'm like, nah, I'm not buying that. But what about just those random text messages that seem to be hitting my phone more and more often lately? What's the deal with those?
Yeah, it's similar to this, right? But it's just to engage in a conversation. It's more social engineering. So they'll try to gauge some information out of you, where you live, where you're going, what you might be doing tonight. I get those all the time, but I try to have a little fun with them as well. So I'll engage back. Sometimes I'll send a picture of my friend back and say, hey, I do remember you. Yeah, we had drinks at the bar 2 nights ago. That was pretty great. And then usually it'll be an Asian woman in a photo that comes back,
right,
on the other side. So you kind of know. But if you get to that point and say, hey, send me a photo, maybe keeping your favorites on your iPhone or your Android or something, just a photo of nobody. You could send, hey, that's me. And then you'll get it back and you'll know right away.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Don't want you to get in trouble. What do you think the government should be doing to make this better? We talked about the carriers here. Should we get more lawmakers involved in this to protect Americans?
That's an interesting question, right? Because there's stuff that we talk back and forth about the free internet all the time. It is definitely a political topic. You're not going to get me in trouble, man. I'm very open about these kinds of things. I do very much believe that there should not be much policing on the internet, but at the same time, there should be a choice for Americans to have certain types of services, just like if the carriers were there. But in addition to the carriers, if you look at internet services, even computers in that, they're almost becoming like utility. And I'm not saying they should be regulated, but I'm saying that maybe there should be some pressure from the governments to put some of these types of security measures in place as a choice for the subscribers.
Okay. That's Rick Jordan. Thank you very much for your time, sir. I appreciate it. Fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.